A man poses in front of a private jet, dressed in Gucci from head to toe. He is not a rapper. He is not an actor. He is not an oil magnate. He is Ramon Avas, although on the internet the whole world knows him by another name, Hushpupi. His style is unmistakable Versaces, Lamborghinis, watches worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, and switches in Dubai that look like they are straight out of a movie. Every photo he uploads to Instagram is a display of wealth. More than 25 million followers see him as a symbol of success, an enigmatic millionaire who seems to have achieved it all, but behind that life, something doesn't add up. There are no companies, no brands, no products. Just images, just wealth, and a big question. Where does all that money come from? What few know is that while he poses on the other side of the world, the FBI is already connecting the dots, because what was hiding behind the cameras was not just a lifestyle. It was a digital fraud network worth more than $450 million. This was not just another fraud. It was not just another case. We are talking about one of the biggest cyber criminals in history, modern, and it all started in Lagos, Nigeria, 1980s, a city with more than 10 million inhabitants, marked by chaos, inequality, and the daily struggle to survive in the midst of this social storm. On October 11, 1982, Ramon Lorenab Abbas was born. He grew up in a place called Waran Shoki, north of Lagos, a community forgotten by the government, where the asphalt is mud when it rains and dust out. When it doesn't, the houses are made of unpainted blocks. Running water is a luxury. Poverty. The starting point: his father was a taxi driver, his mother a street vendor of bread buffet. Family lived in a single rented room. Normal in Nigeria in the 80s. Since he was a child, he had an obsession with being different. Soon he started selling used clothes, first at school, then in a makeshift stall. But in Lagos, that's not enough. When the internet came along in the late 90s and early 2000s, in places like Ramon Abbas's neighborhood, people used to go to internet cafes, and one of the things Nigerians discovered was that there was a reputation against them. They were considered scammers because of the 419 scams, or also called Nigerian scams, of the 80s and 90s, which were telephone scams by fax or by letter. This coincided with a more difficult economic time in Nigeria and with fewer job opportunities. So a community emerged that accepted that label and decided that if they were accused of being scammers, they were going to be the best. It started with emails, and there was a community of young people who became very famous. The Yahoo Boys. Ramon Avas understood one thing: ethics didn't get you far, but cunning would. He began to work for a criminal network, Yahoo. These types of criminal networks were called that because Yahoo was the only internet provider in Nigeria. The most common format was to impersonate an American soldier in Africa. They sent emails requesting money to help them. Yahoo was now a national phenomenon. A culture of deception fueled by poverty, inequality, and corruption. Ramon Abbas not only got into this world, he studied it, he understood it, and soon developed a special talent. He made it sound real. He sold with charisma, with a gift of the gab, with style. He knew how. Create desire, how to sound professional, how to build trust. In 2014, a wave of Yahoo members moved to Malaysia as it offered a more advanced internet infrastructure, making it easier to hide their location and carry out cyber fraud more securely, and Hushpupi followed this wave in Malaysia. He started to make contacts and met Ismailia Mustafa, known in the Ismailia Mustafa networks as Munfaman. Lived in Dubai and had everything Ramon wanted, so Ramon made a decision to move there. Now he traveled in private planes, he was invited to events, and that's how he joined Dubai's elite. The difference between Ramon and the other Yahoo boys is that he went international and used social media to boast about all this. That's where Hushpupi was born. He opened his Instagram account and turned it into a luxury showcase. Richard Mille watches, Patek Philippe Gucci t-shirts, Louis Vuitton sneakers, the image of a man who had it all. In a short time, he went from 10,000 followers to more than 1 million. His content always the same: luxury, And when I say luxury, I mean it. Everything you could imagine. This man exposed it in his Instagram. He lived in a penthouse at the Versace Palace in Dubai. He had dozens of cars of all kinds, private jets, helicopters. He didn't ask for likes. He didn't sell courses. He didn't advertise. He just showed and let everyone know that he had money, a lot of money. But he wanted fame, more attention. In March 2017, at a nightclub in Lagos where he spent $30 in a single night, he posted this image on Instagram with the hashtag Babawa, father of money in Yoruba. That hashtag was not random. It was a direct hit because the Nigerian artist Davido, one of the biggest superstars in the country, was known precisely as Homo Baba Olowo, son of the father of money, in reference to the wealth of his family. Hushpupi instead was saying something very clear. I was not born rich. I did it alone, and now I have more than you and Davido. Did not take it well, he responded. Social media exploded. All of Nigeria was talking about the mysterious man from Dubai who dared to confront one of the biggest stars in the country, and that was exactly what Hushpupi wanted. Media in Nigeria and the Emirates began to wonder, who is this man? What does he do? But Hushpupi never responded directly. He simply said that he was a businessman in the real estate sector, but no registered company, no visible contract. No known partner. For years, millions of people followed Hushpupi, believing him to be a successful businessman. But then he made a mistake. It was not a photo in front of a jet. It was not a diamond chain. This time he uploaded something different. He posted a screenshot of a $300 transaction. Bo. There was something strange in that image. Something did not fit. At the top of the screenshot, you could clearly see the email address associated with the bank account. It was not a Awa. The company wasn't a recognizable name. It was a suspicious Yahoo address, joewoods@yahoo.com. And as is often the case on the internet, it wasn't long before people started putting the pieces together. They traced that email address and linked it to an old Facebook profile in the name of Jane Woods. The photos were obviously not Hushpupi's. And this was a well-known pattern in digital fraud circles, especially among the so-called Yahoo boys. The conclusion was clear. Hushpupi was not Jane Woods, but there was a connection between him and that email, and for the first time, it offered a real indication that behind the facade there was something darker. Rumors began to multiply. Forums, blogs, YouTube channels. Who was this man really? Where was the money coming from? But Hushpupi, true to form, denied everything. He ridiculed the comments. And while at the time it wasn't enough to convict him, it did set off alarm bells at Interpol and the FBI. To make matters worse, at that point, Hushpupi and Monfa began hurling accusations of fraud at each other via social media. Each tried to expose the other, revealing snippets of private conversations indirectly in their stories and coded comments. The world watched as two of the richest men in Africa destroyed each other while both trying to hide the same thing. But it was on October 15th, 2019, where things blew up. On that day, one of Hushpupi's partners was arrested in connection with a bank fraud operation. It was a transfer of $922,800 money that a New York law firm had attempted to send to one of his clients. But the transaction never arrived. Instead, it was intercepted by Hushpupi and his network using a scheme called Beck, his corporate email plantation. This is how the Hushpupi team works. They send phishing emails to staff at a company, usually a middle manager or someone in the accounting department. If a member falls for this trap, it automatically surfaces vital company information, so the team takes that information and uses it to access official email accounts. Once they do this, they start monitoring every email, waiting for an invoice to come in. Let's say Company A is charging a client $1 million for a house. At the moment the company sends the invoice, the Hushpupi team goes to work to create an almost identical email account. Maybe the real company email address is this, so the team adds or removes letters, something like this. At that moment, the client receives an email apologizing for a mistake in the first invoice and giving instructions to make the payment in this new bank account. It may seem very obvious now, but when you receive an invoice at the time you expect to receive it, the client simply thinks, why so little? and deposits the money into the new account controlled by Hushpupi. The email account is deleted, and all traces of the scammers disappear. The money is laundered, and then a portion is divided among the team members while the bulk is kept by Hushpupi in 2019 alone. This type of scam caused more than $18.8 billion in global losses, and few knew how to exploit it as well as Hushpupi. But he didn't work alone. At the top was him. He didn't write every email or manage every hack, but he was the leader, the media mastermind. He decided who to pay, what operation to execute, and how to move the money. At his side, a key figure, Hale Jacob Ponnell alias Woodbury. His right-hand man, the man who coordinated the transfers, obtained bank accounts abroad, and managed the financial mules. Both lived in the Versace Palace in Dubai. From there, they operated the entire network below them. The technical operators specialized in phishing, social engineering, their identity planting, and hacking of business emails. Their mission was to infiltrate without being seen, read emails, and wait for the perfect moment to change a single detail of the bank account. Then came the money launderers. Among them, one of the most important names was Galimari, Canadian of Lebanese origin, the expert in disappearing millions. He used layers of transfers, fake accounts, cryptocurrencies, and luxury purchases to erase any trace. Then the financial mules, unemployed students, ordinary people who lent their bank accounts in exchange for a commission, and behind it all the logistical facilitators, those in charge of obtaining false passports, signing fictitious contracts, registering shell companies, creating proof of income so that Hushpupi's empire looked completely legal. Everything was perfectly orchestrated. Everything had a purpose. But in that October 2019, one of the key pieces fell. Gail Balamari Hushpupi transferred a third of the stolen money to Alamari. His job was to move it through his usual channels, but the plan did not go as expected. Alamari was arrested 2 days later by the FBI. During the interrogation and digital analysis of his devices, the FBI discovered an international network of cyber scams much larger than they imagined. It was not just one account or one company. It was dozens of operations, millions of dollars stolen. So as the investigation into Gail Balamari progressed, the FBI began to put Hushpupi under the microscope. And surprisingly, much of the work was already done because he had documented his own criminal life on social media. One of the key pieces was a photo of his birthday cake decorated with the classic Fendi logo, published on October 12, 2018, for federal agents. That image was pure gold. From there, they were able to confirm his date of birth, which allowed them to trace a U.S. visa application made by Ramon Abbas. That application led them directly to more information about his real identity, his immigration history, and his international movements. By joining together, they discovered multiple scams, including a massive operation in January 2019 to a bank in Malta. The plan, together with Alari, consisted of diverting close to $20 million using accounts controlled by them, and the most surprising thing is that they weren't hiding or even using encrypted channels. They communicated through Snapchat with their personal accounts. Another operation occurred in April of that same year. Hushpupi informed Lamari about an even bigger opportunity, a transfer of $1 million coming from a Premier League club. The plan was to use a Mexican bank account to move the funds, but it didn't work since UK banks didn't accept payments to Mexican accounts, and it was only an attempt. By then, the FBI had already arrested Lamari. Shortly after, his former best friend Monfa was also arrested. Everything pointed to him being next, and anyone in his place would have disappeared or deleted their profile, deactivated social media. But not just Pupi. Instead of hiding, he simply changed his Instagram bio. He went from billionaire Gucci master to real estate billionaire. Obviously, this didn't change anything, and the FBI continued to investigate him. Federal agents, along with Emirati authorities, had him under constant surveillance. They monitored Instagram posts, security recordings, cash payments, phone calls. Frequent meetings with Woodbury and other international suspects were confirmed. The FBI found chats without accomplices about illegal transfers, account numbers, conversations where percentages and commissions were negotiated, emails with falsified passports and manipulated documents. And when the evidence was enough, Operation Fox Hunt 2 began. It's 4 in the morning on June 18, 2020. Without warning, the door of Hushpupi's suite is knocked down. A tactical command of more than 30 agents simultaneously breaks into several apartments at the Palazzo Versace. Hushpupi is arrested along with Woodbury and 10 other suspects. The FBI seizes $40 million in cash, 13 luxury cars valued at more than $68 million, 21 computers, 47 phones. Hundreds of semi-annual cards, and a notebook with more than 19 million emails from victims that day. But only 2 names caught the interest of the FBI: Hushpupi and Woodbury. Both were quickly extradited to the United States, where they would face federal criminal charges. Aware of the seriousness of his situation, Hushpupi hired defense attorney Louis Shapiro, an expert in complex criminal cases. Shapiro requested a continuance of the trial to have time to analyze the 2 evidence and build a solid defense. The court granted the motion, but soon even the lawyer understood that the FBI's case was airtight. They had everything: bank records, intercepted communications, emails, witnesses, and an impossible-to-deny digital trail. Shapiro understood that there was no legal loophole. The only way to reduce the damage was to negotiate. So, on July 28, 2021, Hushpupi pleaded guilty to money laundering conspiracy. The United States federal court sentenced Ramon Avas to 11 years in prison. In addition, he was fined $17 million, and thus ended the career of Instagram's best-known digital scammer, with a sentence that was not measured only in years, but in millions of dollars in years. Victims and lives affected and ruined companies. Today, he is serving a sentence at the FCI Fort Dix, a correctional center in New Jersey. Of the millions he stole, only a small part has been recovered, and his story, although it seems to have ended, still resonates strongly. He had 3 children with different women, and although his lawyer assured that he tried to maintain contact and financial support, the truth is that his decisions distanced him from them. Now behind bars, he is neither a millionaire Instagram influencer nor a hero to anyone. He is a federal prisoner with a registration number, daily routines, and a long sphere ahead of him. In Nigeria, however, his figure remains divided. Some see him as a symbol of excessive ambition, an example of what not to do. Others, especially young people from marginalized communities, cite him as proof that it is possible to rise from the dust and dominate the world, even if it is through illegal means. But Hushpupi was not the first, and he will not be the last, in Nigeria. The Yahoo infrastructure continues to expand in the shadows. Networks like his continue to operate today, with even more refined and difficult-to-trace methods. The country has made progress in laws against cybercrime, but the lack of employment, extreme inequality, and the power of social networks continue to fuel a culture where success, no matter how it is achieved, is worth more than honesty. Hushpupi was not a misunderstood genius. He was a digital criminal with talent, vision, and an ego as big as the damage he caused. But he was also a warning with a face, name, and sentence, because in a world where everything can seem real on a screen, his story reminds us that the truth always finds a way to come out. This channel is new, and the idea is to bring more stories like this every week. Before we go, we can't ignore one of the most elusive enigmas of the digital world, for reasons ranging from its complexity, anonymity, and global reach. Cicada 300301 has been recognized as the greatest mystery in the history of the internet. Had you heard of it? Well, that's a topic for the next video. See you soon. Subscribe.